Please welcome to the stage Grok's Field CTO Chris Stevens, Quantinuum Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives Elvira Shishanina, Balderton Capital's partner James Wise, J.P. Morgan Chase's Head of Global Technology Applied Research Marco Pistoia, and Bloomberg Intelligence's Global Head of Technology Research Mandeep Singh.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see a packed room. I'm sure the conference has been great so far. So, we've got some wonderful panelists here, and I want to start off with a quote from Jensen last night during NVIDIA earnings, where he said, data center would be $1 trillion opportunity in terms of modernization without any digestion. And what it really made me think was, obviously, modernizing the data center is a pretty big area of focus. So maybe, Chris, I want to start with you, since you guys are trying to, compete on the inferencing side directly with NVIDIA. What is it that you are seeing out there in the market in terms of how companies are looking to deploy Gen AI and the foundational models?
Sure. I noticed you were looking right at me as you went to that Jensen quote. Yeah. First of all, I agree, and I hope he's right. I hope he's wrong, and that it's a bigger opportunity than that, frankly. And then what I'm seeing in terms of data center and compute and how we think about that in the industry is it is still early. And so, the demand for training compute has been intense, and NVIDIA has certainly ridden that wave. As firms begin to deploy, generative AI use cases into production, that begins to get into this inference space. And what we're seeing, at least at Grok, and there's others that are in the same space we are, that true AI inference, the throughput and latency, quality, cost that you need, requires a different hardware paradigm. And that's kind of where Grok comes into play. And so we're seeing a lot of demand, crazy, insane demand, quite frankly, and a lot of interest in what we're doing. And, we're really just getting started. It's just the very beginning of, firms getting AI use cases into inference phase. If you go to the research here that Evident put together, I think it was like 2 of the 50 banks in their index have an estimate of ROI against, generative AI use cases. So it's 1%. So they're just really getting going. Yeah. 6 out of the 50, I think, have use cases into production or something along those lines. So it's just so early, and I can't underscore, it's just such an exciting time, honestly. It's like a blue ocean out there for all this work.
And since I'm looking to, cover the emerging technologies broadly, so it's not just the GPU accelerators. Elvira, you guys are, using quantum technology, which has been talked about quite a bit over the years in terms of solving some of the toughest problems, whether it's optimization or, just breaking, like on the cryptographic side. What is it that you had to do, given the success that you've seen, with ChatGPT and just the transformer models that everyone is talking about?
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm actually super happy to be on this panel with those amazing colleagues. The good news is that quantum technology is not a discovery anymore. There is a good amount of engineering work that was done. I represent the world's largest full-stack quantum computing company. Full-stack meaning that we don't not only produce the quantum computers, we also develop the software solutions together with partners that allows basically to them experiment already with the technology and develop the application towards future business value. Obviously, we know about some inherent not improvable of a classical HPC technology. It's hard to say about the AI limitations, but I wouldn't create the competition out of that, but rather say that we can actually envision this whole best of 3 worlds as one big supercomputer that can actually accelerate the scaling.
But is there an AI in quantum that you're looking to
definitely
implement now? Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine using AI to improve the usage and building of quantum computers, and in return you can use quantum solutions and data to improve the classical AI. But there is also the third path that we consider, and we call it sort of compositional intelligence of quantum and AI, that basically provides you the high-level model agnostic framework for interpretability and enables basically the analysis of hybrid models. But yeah, again, I would just say, like, let's not create a competition, but rather consider the best of three worlds to scale up the applications.
So
that we want to solve
you think
faster.
there are still enough problems to solve, even though the
definitely.
GPU accelerator can do it all, it seems like, if you hear some of the companies.
Definitely, and I mean, I could refer later to Marco, but just to say we're...
Feel free to chime in, Marco,
Yeah.
if you have a view on that, given Elvira believes that you clearly, you guys, it looks like are partnering on some quantum solutions. So if there is an example you want to cite.
Thank you again for inviting me, and I'm really honored to be here. But I wanted to say, yes, I agree with what Elvira said, because indeed to achieve quantum advantage or quantum supremacy, it's very important that a lot of pieces come together at the same time. So the quantum hardware, of course, is like a foundational. Without a fully functional quantum computer with very low error rates, we wouldn't be able to get anything useful. But even when the quantum computer becomes available, we need algorithms that run on the quantum computer. We cannot do that at the last minute. So that's why we formed partnerships. So I think the entire ecosystem has to work together, and particularly Quantinuum and JP Morgan Chase were working together very closely. Initially, we were writing algorithms and executing them on the Quantinuum quantum computer without Quantinuum even knowing exactly what we were executing. Just like you would access a computer on the cloud. Now it's actually a joint partnership. You can see a lot of papers, scientific papers, written jointly by JP Morgan and Quantinuum. And in the area of AI, in particular, we see a dramatic potential here. The reason is that, as Elvira mentioned, AI, everybody thinks quantum will be a propeller for AI, which is totally true. But as Elvira mentioned, it's also, there is another angle that maybe a lot of people didn't notice before, but AI can help quantum computing, for example, in the area of error correction. So it's almost like a two-way street where both technologies help each other.
Okay. And, James, you are in the area of investments, and wondering from your lens, do you look far out in terms of quantum as an area where you think there are companies, investable companies right now, or there is a lot of greenfield opportunity when it comes to making AI investments?
Yeah, I mean, we've been investing across over 25 years in different areas, and quantum was an area we invested in sort of 2018 to 2020. Mostly those businesses were dealing in more simulated quantum environments, and some of those have ended up going into areas like the therapeutic space. Venture capitalists, although we deploy a lot of capital, we're actually quite resource constrained compared to government actors or larger CapEx investors, which is where I think most of the money today is coming from to fund quantum projects, because they are so capital intensive. So actually what we've been looking at is where are the areas of, I say traditional architecture, transformer architecture, which is far from traditional, but compared to quantum, old news already, which are actually accreting benefits which we thought we would go to quantum. So we know quantum is going to be brilliant in the optimization problems. We know it'll be great at cryptography problems. But in traditional quantum systems like protein folding or material sciences or organic chemistry, actually we're starting to see transformer architecture-based models, LLMs and others, diffusion models, be pretty proficient. So we're in this interesting period where even people who've got quantum expertise can start seeing outcomes from transformer architecture that perhaps they assumed they'd need hundreds of qubits initially to get to an answer from. So we're looking at it, we're trying to monitor it. But I would say for software, traditional software investors, still quite a hard place to deploy capital.
And Marco, were you surprised to see how the transformer model really took off in this wave of AI, given you've been dealing with algorithms for such a long time and you've spent so much time and energy around, developing quantum as well as applying other emerging technologies. Were you surprised by the success?
Yes, I was. Even though, as you said, this is like my daily job, to work on these technologies. I think I didn't expect such an explosion, which is a great thing. It's very disruptive. So this is also like a kind of a lesson for all of us that we need to be ready to embrace these new technologies. Now, definitely AI has become really important. I think this morning there was also a fireside chat with Teresa Hetzenbecker from JP Morgan, and we see the potential, the incredible potential. AI is used really in a very aggressive way inside banks today. It's in the financial industry, as well as in any other field, of course. And I'm also surprised in a good way to see that quantum is becoming so, at this point, stable and promising. It's no longer a hypothesis. It's becoming a reality. We're moving from science to business. We're moving from science to engineering. So a lot of problems that were only sketched on a whiteboard, the solution was only sketched on a whiteboard, are now becoming completely solvable, and it's only becoming an engineering effort. Mm-hmm. So we see, I don't think anybody has a doubt anymore that quantum computing is a reality. It was a little bit of a hypothesis like a few years ago. Some people were still skeptical. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is anybody still being skeptical anymore.
So, Chris, when you're scaling the compute for your customers, and I'm sure the problems that you're trying to solve for are growing in scale. At least that's the sense that we are getting listening to all the companies that scaling laws hold. And then in parallel, there is this problem around power efficiency or enough power not being available. How are you trying to solve those problems for the customers, and what is it that Grok is doing which is really resonating with customers right now?
Sure. The short answer to that is that the breakthrough technology that Jonathan Ross, our founder and CEO, the invention of this chip that really is the core of Grok. We serve up by way of a cloud API and so on and so forth. But at the core of Grok, the IP is a chip and software compiler that enables easy access and scalable inference on the chip. And the outcome of that, and I'm happy to demonstrate to anybody that wants to see it, the outcome of that is 5x faster, 5x cheaper.
Is there a limit to how big scale can get? Like everyone wants to know scaling laws. There has to be a limit, right? It cannot be infinite scale.
I'm sure there's a limit. What's interesting for Grok, and by the way, just the power consumption is significantly lower using Grok than, say, a H100, for example. In terms of scaling, what's really interesting specifically for Grok is that we are on a 14 nanometer architecture, and most of the rest of the chips in the space are on 4. And so we're achieving superior performance, day to day. There's a horse race going on, and some days it's superior, some days it's a tad behind and it catches up again. But we're achieving superior performance on a last generation chip architecture. So we're excited as we roll out new architectures that we're going to see significant scaling in performance, significant scaling in a good way downward on energy consumption. But these are absolutely a very real concern in terms of...
So you think the software side can drive a lot of this power efficiency?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I wanted to make sure that when I talked about the thing that makes Grok special is certainly this chip, but the compiler software layer that is paired with that, we're able to drive more and more performance on the software layer, not just through the chip, which does then get back to that power consumption piece, but that is absolutely a valid concern.
Yeah. And Elvira, it seems like computers will get better and better with reasoning. That's the kind of direction we are going, with agents or anything you want to talk about in terms of what LLMs bring to the table. Yeah, how are you guys positioning your solutions in terms of better reasoning, or is there another value proposition when it comes to your particular solution?
Yeah, so when we usually speak about let's say, quantum advantage or utility where you can actually get that value compared to what you can do with a classical one. The first things that come in mind is usually like the speed up or better accuracy or maybe more complex and diverse models that you can treat. But actually energy consumption could be another good and valid point, because if you could maybe do the same solution but reduce the energy consumption drastically, because right now what we see, you literally need the entire nuclear plants to train some of the most advanced AI models. That probably could be considered as another point of value that we can bring with quantum computers. In terms where we are right now, is recently in September, particularly, Quantinuum announced their roadmap, a hardware roadmap, practically committing to deliver a universal, fully fault-tolerant quantum computer with thousands of physical qubits and with a quite meaningful error correction layer that allows you to extract hundreds of logical qubits and already perform the meaningful computations that will possibly bring value, for instance, for financial industry. And that we're going to do by the end of the decade. Right now, we recently released the machine H2 with 56 physical qubits, and which allows you to go up to 12 logical ones that our closest partners, such as GPMC, actively explore right now in order to build some of the fault-tolerant
So can I just piggyback on that? You said something very interesting. You don't need a nuclear power plant to, run your solutions, or you don't, I'm implying here, you don't need the latest TSMC manufacturing facility to, produce your chip that you're using for quantum computing. Is that the right framing of how your solution is built in terms of the quantum server and what you're using in your solution?
Well, it depends, of course, on architecture, because I just don't want to open this box of debates. Some of the architectures, they use like dilution-free fridges to cool the system. Some can work in the room temperature, etc. But in general, like the orders of magnitude is that energy-wise, the quantum computers are much less consuming. Yeah. Compared to the classical, but it depends again on the scaling capacity and on the task. So for instance, it's hard to compare because whatever we can run on a quantum computer, we can easily, let's say, easily or not do on the classical one. But like at least the computers themselves, like the one that we recently released with 56 qubits, they are fully connected. So the machine itself, you cannot already simulate on the largest possible HPC. And this is kind of the big milestone that shows that the technology progresses. Yes, probably we would love to see it here and right now, but we just need to give it a little bit of time to mature. And maybe the last point is that if tomorrow you give me, to mimic a little bit what Marcus said, if tomorrow you give me the perfect, super large, in terms of capacity quantum computer, I don't really know what to do with that because I don't know my applications and I don't know what would be the best algorithms to run that. So I just can congratulate GPMC and all the other companies who are the early comers, who spend a lot of resources and efforts to understand the technology, to understand their applications, to build this expertise and be at the forefront.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, actually, with Quantinuum, we published a paper after running a lot of experiments. I think it was in July. I don't remember exactly, June, July. So we took an algorithm called the random circle sampling. I don't know if you remember the result obtained by Google in 2019 when they claimed quantum supremacy. Then the result was contested by other companies, but it was actually a good result. Quantinuum and JP Morgan Chase and Argonne National Lab, we took it and we reran the whole thing with particular optimizations on the 56 qubit quantum computer produced by Quantinuum. And in terms of energy consumption, just to go back to what you were asking, Mandeep, we were able to demonstrate an execution that we believe it cannot be matched on any classical computer. And even if it were matched, even if a classical computer could actually execute the same experiments, the amount of energy would be on the classical computer 30,000 times larger.
Okay.
So it's a big number.
Was there anything you wanted to
add? I was just going to say, I think what this speaks to is that the reality is that we're coming out of an era where the CPU had essentially been commoditized down, and all the value
Yeah.
was accreted at the software layer and
Yeah.
business applications. And we're at a period of time now where specialized hardware is going to be necessary. It's specialized compute.
For how long?
Based on your use case, right? And so I'm not going to make a prediction about the death of the CPU, but I'm sure by the time they begin to roll out fault-tolerant quantum, there will be perfectly appropriate use cases that should run on CPUs, GPUs, and architectures like the LPU from Grok, and then there'll be use cases that belong on quantum, and we'll find that we'll be in this time period where it's an and, right, for these different use cases.
And I think that's a real challenge. I mean, just to double down that change for people working in the financial services world, as you say, for the last 25 years maybe, we've got used to this pretty homogeneous architecture. Mm-hmm. There's now a real strategic decision that people have to make as to how much do they want to take control again over the hardware that they rely on. Or, some people continue to just push that decision off to the hyperscaler that you work with and say, look, you can optimize this for me. Or should we do what, some of the best performing, say, high-frequency traders or market makers have done historically, which is try and take ownership of the hardware and the connection into their own hands and say, actually, we're going to make some strategic bets here, and we're going to have and take advantage of this greater diversity in the hardware, whether it's inference or training or it's quantum or classic. And I think the winners in the financial services industry over the next decade may be more determined by who gets that right than perhaps the software layer and the approach to ML.
So, Marco, I want to make a pivot and focus on the dark side of all this, technological innovation we have seen, whether it's on the GPU accelerators or quantum. Can it be misused in a way where, I feel all these LLMs are so capable now in terms of the kind of tasks they can do out of the box without anyone having to do anything? Can it be misused in a big way, both on the quantum side and the accelerator side?
Yeah, so obviously when it comes to machine learning and artificial intelligence and machine learning, there is always the potential of misusing. For example, a situation could be that an attacker, so we're all familiar with viruses, right? Like, so somebody injects malicious program into your computer. But there are also viruses that are not really executable. They come in the form of machine learning models that have been crafted to be malicious. So they actually, the results of these machine learning models, once they're integrated within the infrastructure of a company, completely produce misinformation, or wrong information. So the potential of this happening, so we need tools that understand when a machine learning model, say, that has been integrated within the infrastructure of a company is malicious. And of course, when we take AI/ML powered by quantum computing, it's a very powerful solution. But again, attackers can leverage this and make it very powerful even in the negative way.
Can it break the encryption keys faster because it has got all this intelligence embedded in the software?
Not so much with AI/ML, but the quantum computing has. So let's take quantum computing, like, without even worrying about its potential for machine learning. So quantum computing is a technology that is capable of solving. Not right now, because the number of qubits is not sufficiently large, and we still have some errors in the qubits. However, in the future, there is no doubt, as I said before, that quantum computing will be such a disruptive technology, such that it will be capable, a quantum computer will be capable of solving problems much faster and much more accurately than any classical supercomputer. So we like these capabilities. In finance, we will be able to do so many things in real time. Our financial applications will be very precise. In chemistry, in the pharmaceutical field, we will be able to produce medicines and so on. But the problem is when it comes to cryptography. So cryptography today, public key cryptography, is based on mathematical complexity. In other words, if you have any entity, each one of us, each company, each one of us has two keys, a public and a private key. The private key is very difficult to compute starting from the public key. It takes trillions of years, even to the most powerful classical supercomputer today, to take, say, your public key and reverse engineer the corresponding private key. But with Shor's algorithm, called Shor's from its inventor, Peter Shor, Shor's algorithm executed on a quantum computer in the future, this will take only 8 hours. So in 8 hours, an attacker will be able to compute anybody's private key, decrypt the data, and impersonate other people, apply digital signatures while impersonating somebody else. So we have to accept the fact that today's public key cryptography is destined to be broken. So that's why we are following the directions of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, that is giving us new cryptographic algorithms.
Yeah.
But we're also embracing another technology called the quantum key distribution. We have an effort running at JP Morgan Chase. With quantum key distribution, two parties can agree on the same cryptographic key, no public and private key, just the same symmetric key, in a way that no attacker will ever be able to guess which key has been transmitted. The reason being that this key is transmitted using principles of quantum physics. So you cannot break quantum physics because it's physics, then you cannot break quantum key distribution.
Just maybe if I can very quickly follow up. So what Marcus said is the QKD is heavily relying on the possibility to generate the random numbers.
Yeah.
And for us to not compromise, let's say, this generation, we need to make sure that this randomness is truly random. And that's why, like, the huge and hot topic in quantum computing right now is, like, how to certify this randomness. And for example, in Quantinuum, we have developed this product which is called Quantum Origin, which basically allows you not only generate the random numbers, but also to certify them based on the Bell test, which was basically the physics experiment to show the entanglement phenomena.
I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I want to get to my final question, which is the biggest impact you see in terms of AI agents or anything that this new technology will bring, and I'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah, I think that the sort of digitization of business, while many businesses haven't even fully achieved that, I think if we reimagine the work we're trying to do in business, outside of speeding up what were manual processes, putting digitization, sprinkling software in there, sprinkling machine learning in there, but it's still largely the same process.
You don't want to call that a use case.
If we reimagine, I'll come up with a use case, but if we reimagine that instead to a sort of intelligent interface in the business, right? I mean, the thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is the democratization across education.
Okay. Elvira?
I cannot be more agree.
Okay.
And again, just to go back to the point that we don't really need to choose, but we
just have 1 minute left, so you'll have to make it quick,
So we need to study better our applications, and I believe with a new disruptive technology, we could discover them many more. And so no need to solve everything with quantum, same as you couldn't solve everything with the CPUs, but fairly and smoothly combine them in one hybrid workflow could actually help to accelerate the progress. Yeah.
James?
Well, it's a hard one to answer, but I think the first way is optimization problems, right? There's a bunch of optimization problems in the organic chemistry world and biotechnology world. I think we're getting closer to solving. There's a bunch of workflow problems in software. So, RPA, traditional RPA is completely dead. What we're seeing today in agentic workflows is just so much more advanced than that, replacing traditional workflows with really dynamic software and reasoned software, as it were, agentic reasoning software is really powerful. But the obvious next step for me is embodied AI, it's robotics. And I think, there's going to be a big shift over the next 5 years as software gets out of our laptops and into devices, whether they're vehicles or otherwise.
Okay, Marco, I'll give you the final word.
Thank you. Yeah. So I agree with what James said. In particular, the field of optimization is going to be really, it's going to benefit a lot from AI ML and from quantum computing. I would also say from a financial perspective, we see a lot of use cases. We have a list of use cases. That's why finance has been identified as the first industry sector to benefit from quantum computing, because we need results in real time, and we need them, and we have a lot of problems. So one problem that is actually really interesting is everything related to fraud detection for credit card transactions, and also anomaly detection in payments, automatic detection of sanctioned entities in payments, and so on. So all these problems require machine learning, But with classical computing, there are a lot of false positives and false negatives. So that's where we see the power of quantum computing making a big difference.
Great. Thank you all, and please join me in giving a round of applause for our panelists.